Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. And of course today in this video we are here to address all the leaks that have happened after Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So all the leaks about the upcoming Assassin's Creed games. Now I'm going to say most of these are complete BS. Some are not so complete BS. And I would be addressing them accordingly. So I'll go from the most likely leaks to the least likely leaks. Now, of course, there are, to my knowledge, there have been 4 leaks. There have been more, but honestly, they weren't big enough to even cover in this channel. So, yeah, there have been 4 leaks, and this is from most likely to least likely. So, without any delay, let's just get started. Now, in the beginning, I would say medieval France, because I do feel like that is the most likely setting they could go for. Now, there are a few questions about the actual details. Is it set during King Richard I's conquest, or is it set during the 100 Years' War? Because there's a time gap between that. I personally think there's a big chance that this game, if it exists, will be set somewhere close to the 100 Years' War. Because if you remember, Jacques de Molay, so of course the sage and the last Grandmaster of the Knights Templar, you know, the original Templars, he died in 1314. And of course the 100 Years' War started basically 2 decades later. So it started in 1337. So that considered, I feel like there might be much more of a chance if they want to actually tell an Assassin's Creed story. There is a good chance that they are going to focus on the Templar Order going to ground and, you know, working from the shadows like the Assassins. It could make for a good story. So, of course, that is wishful thinking on my part, but I think they might do that because it makes sense. But of course, this is Ubisoft we are talking about. When have they ever made sense? Anyway, also one more reason why I believe it might be set in France is because, of course, if you know anything about the Valhalla, is that one of the DLCs is actually the Siege of Paris. Now, why am I talking about that? It's because they can reuse a lot of the assets and, you know, kind of put them in this kind of a hold-up game. Like if let's say a smaller studio is working on it, say Ubisoft Sofia, who worked on Rogue before, because that was kind of a Black Flag 2.0, I do believe this will be a Valhalla 2.0. Essentially, this will be Valhalla, but slightly smaller in scale, which might actually do the game wonders, to be fair. But this will be like Valhalla, slightly smaller in scale, and also, you know, focusing on some sort of a niche story, just like Rogue had. And that also kind of gives me the idea like maybe it will be a Templar themed game, because Rogue was a Templar themed game. And yes, since they can reuse the assets, I do believe that there is a good chance that they will release this particular game this year. Because of course, if you remember, after Origins took a 2-year break, we got Odyssey. Then they took a 1-year break and then we got Valhalla. It makes sense that there would be a game now in their actual schedule, except the last time it was Ubisoft Quebec who made Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Of course, they are now involved in Immortals Phoenix Rising, which I believe is a great game, something which Odyssey wasn't. But that's a different topic. Now, what I do feel is, like as I've said, it might be Ubisoft Sofia who is making it. There was some, discussions about that. And this one, to me, looks like the most likely setting, because this can actually happen. And given that Ubisoft has no releases in the fall window, yeah, this just might happen. So of course, the next rumor was Assassin's Creed China. Now this is actually a very old rumor. This was even floating around before Valhalla got leaked. So now there is this concept art made by some artist where he was essentially featured some assassins in a Chinese setting. And people gobbled it up. And, you know, this one I'm kind of conflicted about. This could very well be a thing. Assassin's Creed China could be a thing. For all we know, there are some things to be said about the development team, and that is that if you look at the team that developed Unity, now I'm not sure where those developers or where that team went, but to my knowledge, that team has done nothing so far. If you remember, that was the team that was entrusted with delivering the next-gen game. And honestly, I feel like they were robbed of an achievement, because if that game was delayed 1 more year and it actually got the polish that it needed, it would have been a great game. Assassin's Creed Unity, I mean. But of course, it didn't get that, and we all know what happens. The rest is history. And I do believe that there might just be a separate team working in Montreal who are making this game. And they were working specifically for this next gen game. And in that sense, the China leak could actually be true. What won't be true is that Xiao Yun would be the protagonist. Now, a lot of people said that, it's set in China. Xiao Yun was supposed to be that successor to Ezio, but we didn't see that other than the Chronicles game. And it breaks my heart for that protagonist, but yeah, there's nothing we can do. There are two reasons why I believe Xiao Yun will never be a Assassin's Creed protagonist. One, she has been explored. That doesn't sound good when I say it like that. But what I mean is, her story has been told in different mediums. The second thing that I believe is that would mean that the game would have a single protagonist, a single female protagonist. And I do not think Ubisoft will risk it. They don't have the balls to do it. And so, yeah. They might try it for PR, but they will have to shove in a male character somewhere. And they know they will piss off some people with that. So, it makes more sense from their perspective to just not do this character. That's what I feel. I would love to see her in a game. But of course, we can all agree that that's never going to happen. And one more reason which goes against this setting is that recently Ubisoft released a comic that is also set in China. And we have seen this track record. If Ubisoft goes to a setting and does that setting, they usually do not revisit that setting in any other way. So if they have done, say, Paris, they are not going to go back to Paris. The only time that was kind of debunked was with Valhalla. But even with Valhalla, we were kind of exploring the whole England. So one city of London didn't really count. So it was not really the same setting. Now, of course, I could be wrong on this. And you know what? If it's a game about Xiao Yun, if it's a proper Assassin's Creed game with proper parkour and everything, I would love to see it. But I just know deep within myself that is never going to happen. Now, moving on to the next leak. This is something that I'm also very conflicted about, but I also know that this is extremely unlikely to ever happen. That is Assassin's Creed India. One, there isn't much demand for this setting. There is a demand from the Indian audience. I would love to see a game in India. I know at least 2 of my other subscribers would love to see a game in India. But the thing is, the setting that the leak suggests is the most boring setting they could have gone for. The leak is suggesting the rise of the colonial influence, the whole British East Indian Company and even the Portuguese. And they're saying these are the colonies that were rising at the moment and the fall of the Mughal Empire. I feel there are so many settings in India that are better, that would be better suited for an Assassin's Creed game. There are so many settings in India that would work better. I don't mean to brag or anything, but considering that India is one of the oldest civilizations to exist, we kind of have a lot of history to go through. There is a lot of history to go through. People in Europe, you guys have your own history, you have your own deities, you have your own mythologies. Just come to India maybe once in a while. We'll show you history, we'll show you the mythology. We kind of have a shit ton of it. But of course, this is the most boring setting, and honestly, no one talked about it. Other than a few people here and there, no one really vouched for the setting, and even the person who leaked it didn't really have a history of leaking it before, leaking any other games before. So the Medieval France leak was actually done by a French YouTuber who actually got the leak for Valhalla right. So the China leak was kind of all over the place. So it kind of makes me believe that some of it might be true. But in case of Assassin's Creed India, none of the signs showed that there would actually be a game here. I would love to see one. Probably after the next 10 years though. The reason why I don't want an Assassin's Creed game right now, क्योंकि चूतिए बैठे हैं. Government में चूतिए बैठे हैं अपने. If you didn't understand that, don't worry. You don't need to understand that. I'm just airing my own frustrations out. And if you did understand that, भाई तुमको भी पता है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ. But anyway, let's move on from that. Now, of course, the next setting that is rumored, and this is a relatively recent rumor, is Assassin's Creed Japan. And now you might be, getting your knives and hidden blades ready to assassinate me, saying that how the hell is this a recent rumor? People have been talking about a Japanese Assassin's Creed game since there was an Assassin's Creed game. So yeah, this is just made for an Assassin's Creed game. Don't believe me? Check out Ghost of Tsushima. Everyone was praising that game, saying like this is what an Assassin's Creed game should be, because that's what it is. The setting just perfectly complements it. And I don't believe, and that is one of the reasons why I don't believe they will ever make a game in Japan. The reason being, one of the main points about the leak was that it would have a solo female protagonist. Now please refer to my comments about 5 minutes ago about why I don't think that will ever happen. And as far as Japan is concerned, Ghost of Tsushima beat them to the punch, and they have beaten them in such a way that Ubisoft would have to do something pretty fucking epic to actually get some of that, credibility back. If they want to make an Assassin's Creed game in Japan and make it relevant to the audience, they would have to do something pretty special, which I don't believe they are in the market for. All Ubisoft actually wants to do is make generic ass games that will, influence the highest amount of audience. I mean, like, when people start giving me the argument, like, oh, Odyssey is very successful because look how many units it sold. It's not about how many units you have shifted. I can sit here and say Red Dead Redemption 2 sold a lot more units. So don't come at me with that and say that, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a success because it sold so many units. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many units a game sells if that game is not a good one. I've said this before, and I'm saying this for one last time to anyone who will listen to me. I don't care about sales. I care about the product that I'm getting. And the product that I've gotten from Ubisoft for the last 3-4 years have not been good. And for some cases have been absolute garbage. And that is the reason why I believe they will never set a game in Japan, because they can't compete anymore. They have already been outplayed. If Assassin's Creed had made a game in Japan maybe a few years ago and then Ghost of Tsushima came out, people would still have that game as a cherished memory and then compare it to Ghost of Tsushima in a much more positive way. But if they come out with a game now, that would not be good for them, because no one is going to play that game, that generic ass game with the generic ass RPG mechanics, because let's be honest, Ubisoft are not moving away from it. They have specifically mentioned it in their investors call that, this model is so successful that we are going to pretty sure make every other franchise follow this model. They have said that. So yeah, I don't believe when someone tells me that it's going to be more of an action-adventure game, it's going to have more of a traditional Assassin's Creed story, it's going to have more of a traditional Assassin's Creed protagonist, it's going to have proper free running, please forgive me for not believing it, because I don't believe in this company anymore. But that's on me. And that's what I feel about the leak so far. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think is the most credible leak here? I have one more thing to say, take these with a grain of salt. Chances are some of these might come true. Chances are none of these might come true. There were so many people saying so many things about the leaks. Even I started making a joke about, oh, the next Assassin's Creed game is going to be set on Earth. And, it's going to have a protagonist. And, people are going to fight. It's probably true because, yes, that's what we do in an Assassin's Creed game. So, yeah. Anyway, that's what I feel. Do let me know what you guys feel. And if you did enjoy the video, press that like button. And also, do consider subscribing to my channel. There is a video I am making about, the whole story of Assassin's Creed Valhalla summarized in a neat and short video. Stay tuned to my channel for that. And I will leave you guys in peace.